I think we're just going to get the slides up. But yeah, while that is happening, I will just give you a brief intro to, thanks, Kate, who we are and why we're here. So, so this Hui is being held under the auspices of Treaty Action Group, which is an organisation that supports actions for rangatiratanga, ko tahitanga and justice in this wider Te Whanganui-a-Tara region, including Te Awa Kairangi. And what's super important, if we just go to the next slide, Kate, is we operate under the korowai of Mano Whenua, and in particular te kōtahitanga o Taranaki Whānui ki te upoko o te ika, so that we can live into the relationship that Te Tiriti o Waitangi promised us. If you weren't able to attend last week's session, there's more information about both TAG and Te Kahu o Te Raukura on the website. But what's important to know about Te Kahu o Te Raukura is that it stands for honor, peace, and goodwill. So this really guides how we take action here, because this is what we have been charged with. So to act respectfully, compassionately, both for our whenua and the journey that we share. And so the idea that we stand united in honor, peace, and unity under the protection of Te Kahu o Te Raukura. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm a bit sick and my brain is working very slowly. Te Kahu o Te Raukura. Cool. Sorry, back one slide, Kate. Yes, thank you. So, Chrissy, would you just like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, tēnā koe. And thanks for talking about Te Kahu o Te Raukura as well. I can see we've got a slide missing from the set of slides that we've got. There has a slide about Te Kahu o Te Raukura on it, but it doesn't seem to be here in this lot. But yeah, right. I can see that beautiful kōrero in the chat there. And it's a cool thing, especially if you live on Taranaki Whānui lands like I do, in Te Awa Kairangi and Lawahut. It's a really important thing for us to be aware of. It has actually a long history. It's got a big connection to the protests at Parliament, but a longer history as well, going back to Parihaka and even before those times. So really important thing for us to learn about, and a beautiful example of leadership from a mana whenua here in Te Upoko Te Ika in Taranaki as well. But tēnā tātou. Kōwaio, just as a really quick intro of who I am. So my name is Chrissy, and my ancestors are all Tawiwi Pākehā. They're mostly from Scotland, a few from Ireland and England, a few from other parts of the world as well that we're not as connected to. But I grew up in Te Upoko Te Ika, so I've always lived on Taranaki Whānui ki Te Upoko Te Ika lands. Right now I live in Te Ngaingai, which you might know as Nainai, on Te Aotearoa lands, Ngāti Puketapu, Hapu lands specifically, and feel really blessed and lucky to live here. I'm kind of here because I am a tiriti facilitator and a Te Reo Māori teacher and translator, and I also facilitate How to Talk to Your Racist Uncle workshops with my beautiful friend Guy Arthur, who shoulder tapped me to come and jump in tonight, and also have some lovely connections to Tawiwi Tautoko, who are part of this this organising that's going on their Tangata Tiriti Advisory Group. And yeah, I just wanted to really mihi to our Tiriti Action Group as well for hosting this space, and to you, Guy 3, for also hosting us and facilitating this space tonight. So tēnā tātou. Yeah, ka pai koe tēnā, that's me.
Well, thank you so much, Chrissy. And my name is Gayatri. My day job is as a counsellor, the kind that you talk to about your problems, not the kind that is, that we have to engage with for this mahi. And yeah, I facilitate a workshop called How to Talk to Your Racist Uncle, which is about having relationship building anti-racist conversations. And that's kind of part of where we're going tonight. So that's kind of why I'm doing this workshop. And my whānau is from the south of India, and went from the south of India to Malaysia via the pathway of colonial indentured labour, and then to Aotearoa via the pathway of economic migration. And I grew up in Tāmaki Makaurau and have been down here since 2016. Currently, I live in Te Awa Kairangi, Lower Hutt, in was called Epuni, but I'm pretty sure it's meant to be Te Puni, very close to Chrissy. So that is who we are. What is the current context? So we're all here because we're interested in the idea of protecting the Māori wards. And why is that important? Well, the Māori wards are the only wards that require a referendum or poll in order to be established. This was changed in 2021 after heaps and heaps of work by communities that pushed the Labour government to remove referendums because they are discriminatory and a barrier to them existing. And so because of all of that mahi that was done, heaps of councils, I think the number went from 3 to 49, decided or agreed to establish Māori wards. So that was pretty huge. And the result of a lot of effort on the parts of a lot of people. However, as we have seen, progress is never guaranteed. And last year, 2024, the coalition government reversed that same law, forcing any council with Māori wards to either scrap their seats or take them to a referendum. So that's where we are now. So coming into this election, this local government election, we are at a point where these referendums are happening in this current local body elections. So over 42 councils have reaffirmed their support for Māori wards, and this will open up assured local Māori representation to the majority vote. So that's good. 42 councils have said that they affirm Māori wards, but it means now they're open to referendum. So in this region, Wellington City Council, Hutt City Council, Kapiti Coast City Council, Porirua District City Council, and the Greater Wellington Regional Council are all up for referendum. So that affects most of us here. And if you live in this region, you have 2 referendums because you vote both for your local council and the Greater Wellington Regional Council. People who vote in local body elections are there's very poor turnout, and the people who vote tend to be older in Pākehā. So that's part of what we're doing, is both encouraging people to vote and also getting people to talk about Māori wards. So your job is to encourage everyone you know to enroll to vote in the local body elections and have good conversations about why Māori wards are important. Cool. So if we can go to the next slide, Kate. So I really like this quote from Moana Jackson because I think it really captures the idea of what we're talking about with Te Kahu o Te Raukura, which is the idea that while a lot of what gets publicity is the very extreme bad things and the shocking treatment that is given to some people, but as Matua Jackson says, there is a sense that when you can talk to people, then you begin that process where history changes in the hearts of people. And I think that's pretty beautiful, the idea that history changes in the hearts of people. So what we're kind of trying to do here is activate the hearts of people, if that makes sense. Next slide, please. So our plan for the evening is we're going to go over our general approach for holding these types of conversations and give you a really specific structure, because we find that's pretty helpful to sort of know where you're going. And then we're going to spend a good chunk of time practicing. And while that's often the thing you least want to do, it's the most useful thing we can spend our time doing. So we're going to give it a good go while we're here together. Cool, thank you. Next slide, please.
Okay, shall I take over for a little bit of what?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Thanks for the intro as well. I was just thinking about Moana's quote and how he said history changes in the hearts of people. and the work that I do a lot of in my life, and lots of people in this room as well. I can see some of my tuakana in this room tonight, and especially in the TDT education space, but kind of in this broader movement in lots of ways. And I quite often reflect on the work that I do on how many different ways in there are, and how it's so relational way that our relationships, if our relationships are at the core, and holding those relationships, like right relationship, is being often a lot more important than right information. Having the right answer or something like that, is what we hold. We have a lot more potential to kind of find a way in, with different people in different groups and in different spaces for this movement for justice and liberation for all, which is really what we're here for. We want liberation for all of us and justice for all of us. And Māori Wards is like one way in. So it's interesting in TDT education work. I wonder if Jen and other people who do TDT education will also experience this. But Māori Wards is quite often, when people have done TDT training, quite often at the end, Māori Wards is where they get to. They're like, oh, well, let's talk about Māori Wards now, even if that's not something they'd ever thought about talking about before, when they've had a way in through TDT education. And on the flip side, sometimes people who maybe wouldn't go to TDT training, if you can get them in a conversation, and a good conversation that is relational and has good feelings in it about something like Māori Wards, sometimes that can lead them on to think about other stuff as well. So it's all really deeply connected. And I'm just going to talk a little bit to the kind of general approach that we're talking about tonight, which really connects to Moana's quote, Moana's work. Dawiri, I just see your message. It's funny because I actually knew Moana really well. He lived in Te Ngaingai as well. I don't know if anyone knows that. Moana used to talk about it to me often when he was alive. He'd say, oh, people would run into me in Naina and say, are you that Moana Jackson fellow? Like, what are you doing here living in Naina? I thought you lived somewhere really fancy. But he loved being here in Te Ngaingai, aka Nainai. And I was really lucky to get to spend lots of time with Moana at his kitchen table before he passed away. And it's not that far after the anniversary of his tangi. So I've just had lots of memories popping up on my social media and everything recently about Moana's tangi, which makes me feel really emotional as well. I just responding to that message in the chat, it always makes me get a little catch in the back of my throat when I see a picture of beautiful koro. But yeah, we're doing the work that he was helping to create in his lifetime, as well as we come together tonight. So that's a beautiful way to remember him. Anyway, there are lots of ways in, is what I was thinking about. There's lots of ways into these good relational conversations, and this is one way that we're talking about tonight. And it's not the only way, but it's a really effective way. And it kind of goes against what a lot of us have kind of grown up being told. So we've kind of been trained by a society that sometimes if you're talking about something with someone, that your job is to like beat them and convince them and defeat them at oratory and kind of show them that you're right and they're wrong and that you have the information, they don't have the information. It's not very, very effective, especially if you're trying to shift someone's perspective on something really important like Māori Wards. It won't necessarily have the effect that you want. And there's really good evidence that shows that it won't have that effect. So our kind of approach tonight, and at How to Talk to Your Racist Uncle, the workshop that Gayatri and I do, and also at Tauiwi Tautoko, although I won't claim to be an expert in all of that stuff. I'm still learning about all of the approaches at Tauiwi Tautoko, but from what I understand, it's quite similar in the way that you're not trying to be the expert. You're not trying to lead with facts or arguments or, telling someone how wrong they are and all of the things that they think, because that creates defensiveness in people. It engages our nervous systems, and people suddenly are like, I'm just going to defend my point, even it doesn't matter to me how wrong you show me that I am. I'm going to keep on defending and defending. So it doesn't necessarily create a helpful situation. If you really want to shift people, I have productive conversations where people can move and shift on that spectrum of their ideas. It often even has the opposite effect. It says here, can cause people to become even more entrenched, even with evidence to the contrary. So the approach to conversations that we're learning about is absolutely not about being an expert. It's not about fact-checking and arguing, because we know that those things don't actually work quite often and can cause people to double down on even incorrect views. So tonight, what we're talking about and what we're going to do practicing, and I'm really excited we've got time to practice, because it is hard and awkward sometimes to practice this stuff. It's really important. If you don't kind of do some rehearsals of it, when it actually happens, you can get a bit stuck. So we're going to practice connecting, listening, calling in. I don't know if people have heard that term, calling in, before, in an effort to recruit people to our team. And that's quite a helpful way to think about it, that you're trying to recruit someone on to this movement that we're all a part of, for liberation and justice for all, for this movement, for humanity. It's a really exciting thing to be part of, and can be super effective if you can get people to see that. So we also want to think about the fact that our conversations might not have a really satisfying immediate impact. That's the other thing we want to take on board, and we talk about this a lot in our workshop, the workshop that Gayatri and I do. It really focuses on the fact that sometimes it can be unsatisfying for us doing this work. We don't always get a big moment where the other person's like, oh my gosh, you're totally right. Wow, I see the error of my ways and now I've totally changed, and I'm going to, do all of this stuff to change the way that I'm operating in every area of my life. Sometimes people will be like, oh yeah, weird. I don't know what I think about that, and then maybe tap out, and you might have to just end the conversation there. But it's really about planting seeds, and planting seeds is a really powerful thing to do. So that's kind of the focus that we're coming from and the perspective that we're coming from today. There are also other ways of having conversations too, and they all have value. So it's not to say that this is the only way or the best way, but it is a really helpful way for these kinds of conversations. So do you want to, have we done it already? Do you want to just flick to the next slide, please, Kate? Tēnā. So there's a 3-part structure to what we're talking about tonight. Oh, I'm just sorry, I can't help but look at the chat, Lou, which essentially describes every discussion on social media, except for the ones that Tauiwi Tautoko are part of. I just say, if you're part of that group, or if you ever read some of the conversations that Tauiwi Tautoko are part of, sometimes we see it not go that kind of terrible classic social media way, which is really exciting. Anyway, so 3-part structure to what we're leaning into tonight. So the first part is to ask questions to find out about the person, and you're kind of thinking about, are they persuadable? So that means, is there any chance here of this person kind of connecting in with what you're talking about, or are they here to have a fight? Are they here to be a troll? Are they here to discredit everything you're saying, no matter what it is? Are they here to be combative? Because if you can work out that someone is not persuadable, or that in that group where they just want to have conflict, is maybe not the best place for you to expend your energy. So identifying where that person is, are they persuadable? We'll talk about that more soon, is really important. And what values do you share? Because connecting with someone on that human level and working out your shared values is really important. When we do TDT training, quite often we introduce ourselves by talking about how we came to do this work. And I've been facilitating in various forms. I've only been doing TDT facilitation for about 7 years, but in various forms, especially around Te Reo Māori, for almost 20 years. And I quite often talk about my experience as a facilitator, doing lots of work with lots of groups of people, and will say most of the people that I work with, I find that they've actually got lots of values in common. And I know that we do all have some different values as humans, but there's a lot that we share. And when I do a treaty workshop, I'll say, I'm here today because you can't make choices that align with your values if you don't understand the context that you're in. So I want to give you some understanding of that context so you can make choices that align with your values. And people love that, because you're not telling them, think this or do this. Just saying, hey, I want you to have some context so you can make values-led choices that are about your own values. And so finding those shared values can be really helpful for forging those strong relationships, having good conversations that actually lead somewhere and have the potential of planting seeds and, blooming beautiful anti-racist tino rangatiratanga led movements. So that's what we're thinking about, finding those values and thinking about, are they persuadable? The second step is about connecting those values with your own experience. So it's really tempting, especially for someone like me who loves to talk, just immediately lead with my own experience. But this kind of structure is a little bit more about connecting with the other person by asking questions first. And then step 3 is the bit where we're about giving basic information and option to discuss further, rather than leading with facts or, this is why you're wrong of approach. So thank you, Phoebe. I can just see you posting that Tauiwi Tautoko approach, which is good timing as well. Yeah, so that's kind of the structure of tonight. I wonder, is that kind of me for this bit, Gayatri?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Chrissy. I wanted to add to the emotionally satisfying part. Like, not only do you not get the emotional satisfaction of someone changing their mind, but you also don't get the emotional satisfaction of being mad, which can feel super great sometimes. So it can be pretty challenging. So this idea that we actually start with listening to what the other person has to say is sometimes it can feel backwards. The idea that we don't just go in and tell people what we think, and instead are interested and curious, like quite genuinely. We have to be sincere and asking questions to find out more about the other person and how they came to be the way that they are in some ways. So for the purposes of these conversations in particular, we want to know if they're persuadable and if we hold any values in common. And we want to know if they're persuadable because our we don't want to get baited into having conversations and expending heaps of energy on people who are not persuadable. Like, that's a waste of our time. It's not good organizing. So instead, we're on a little bit of a fact-finding mission to figure out, is this conversation kind of worth the effort for the purposes of this kaupapa? So sometimes we approach conversations differently. So it's important to recognize that this is for a very specific kaupapa, and that's good. It's good to have limitations, but it does mean we approach conversations maybe a little bit differently than we might otherwise. Can I get the next slide, please? So what does it mean for someone to be persuadable? So like I said, we don't want to waste energy on people who are very deeply held like racist views or like very fixed ideas that no, Māori wards are bad. So if you look at this little diagram here, basically anyone across from the first, like the orange zone, so from the green to blue, that's within our remit right now. Yeah, and because I think, especially if we're having public conversations, so if we're at stores or door knocking, we do run into people who are interested in just kind of causing fights with it, or not causing fights, but just, yeah, getting the emotional satisfaction from picking a fight. Like, that's fun for some people. And we want to be able to just recognize we politely disengage from that kind of behavior. We don't want to get drawn in or sucked in because it's not useful. And it is, I think, sometimes challenging to think about that actually as a whole. Most humans hold common values. Often they're expressed really differently. So if we think about the language David Seymour uses, for example, it's very emotive and compelling to people, ideas of fairness, justice, equality. But those are, values that I hold too, but I don't think about them in the same way as David Seymour does. But it does give me an area of commonality with someone else when I might be having those conversations. So yeah, when I'm asking questions to decide if someone's persuadable, I'm also looking for, well, what do we have in common? How can I bring us closer together so that we can have a useful conversation? Oh, I'm just making sure I haven't missed anything. So we're not only listening for what their view is, but where their view is coming from, what stands behind it, because that is what gives us out into holding a conversation. So for example, people might speak of values of fairness or everyone having an equal voice, or worries that special seats create like a us and them division, that, identity politics is like fracturing us. Yes, so our understandings of the world, even if we hold those values, often lead us in really different directions. So here we want to listen for those values, connect on them, and then be able to actively reflect on how we've come to the point we have, particularly around Māori wards, by holding the same values that other people have. Cool.
Can I just extend on that one little bit as well? One of the things that sometimes we talk about in our trainings is when you've listened to the person and you've found their values and you've connected as well, is that sometimes if you get to the point where you are sharing how you've come to the place that you're at, it can be really helpful to share that maybe you've learned on your journey to get there as well, rather than that you have just been the supreme, entity of all knowledge from birth and you've always had the right opinions about everything and you've always been so right on and such a badass. It's really helpful for people to know that you've had to do learning as well to get to this point, and that maybe, I really care about fairness too. And I used to wonder, how is it fair to have a ward that's just for Māori? And then, you know, I learned about these kinds of things, or I learned about this bit of history, or I learned about the way that this is the only type of ward, you know, and then you can connect with people on a really human level that allows them space to change and move as well, and kind of models and shows people this is normal human stuff for us to be in relationship with each other and learn and shift and change and talk. And that actually it's quite attractive as well, especially if you can, you know, talk about, or not even necessarily talk about, but just show how liberating it is to be free from the idea that our job is to have all the right answers all the time and to prove how right we are at every moment. And so I just thought I'd add that in now, because what you said before, Gayatri, made me think about it. It's such a valuable bit of modeling that we can do when we're having those conversations.
Totally. Thank you, Chrissy. Yeah, the idea that we can role model being able to change our minds is super powerful, because often that's associated with weakness in our culture. Like changing your mind is seen as like not very cool. Yeah, and the other thing that I think is important to remember is that listening, being curious, and you know, having empathy for someone is not the same as endorsing their views. Just because we're listening doesn't mean we're agreeing, but we can still relate to people on a human level. Oh, I think the next bit is for you, Chrissy.
I feel like we've almost covered it all. Are we up to that same slide? Slide 11.
Slide 11. So next slide, please.
Oh, yeah. Halfway. Yeah, we kind of have covered most of it. But anyway, the bit that we're going to practice tonight, and I think probably is this true, Gayatri, that we'll do a little practice for you in front of you so you can have a wee bit of modeling before we go into our breakout rooms. But we're going to practice asking these types of questions. So that it's important to kind of think about what kind of information are we looking for, and some of the information that we're looking for is what do they think about Māori wards. So that doesn't mean you have to ask that exact question. Can we go back a slide, Kate? Sorry. To ask that exact question, what do you think about Māori wards? Yeah. Or what do you know about Māori wards, or what do you think? Either one's probably important for us to find out about. But you don't want to ask that question. You just want to probably be like, hey, what do you think about Māori wards? Because again, that probably sets you up for quite an oppositional kind of conversation. So good for you to know that's what you're trying to find out, but maybe thinking about some other ways of getting to that info. Do they have thoughts or concerns about them? Similarly, like maybe that's not the question for you to verbally ask, but it's good for you to have in the back of your head and what led them to feel this way, which Gayatri actually kind of covered all those things. Sorry, Kate, can you flip forward again? So if we think about how we might come about finding out those things, you can ask really curious, non-judgmental questions. And some of this is really about your tone and your āhuatanga, like the way that you carry yourself in the space, the relational way that it feels for them is almost as important. There's not one perfect way to word a question, and you don't need to get stuck on, oh, I didn't say it the exact way that we learned in that Zoom. It's more about how does it feel, and being curious and being open and non-judgmental. So just like Gayatri said before, it's not that you need to endorse if someone says something really anti or really racist or whatever. You don't have to endorse that point of view, but you can still connect with them in a human way. And it's really generous work as well. For me, as someone who's not tangata whenua, you know, I live on land that I'm not Indigenous to, and I'm constantly aware of that. And what is my obligation here as someone who holds that space? And I think my obligation is actually to do some of the less satisfying, more kind of patient, long game, generous. I mean, not to say more, because Māori actually have been doing this work since the beginning of time, so definitely not more, but you know, to really lean into that work that isn't as satisfying as maybe getting angry sometimes is, but can be really important and really especially important for shifting big groups of people on the spectrum that Gayatri was talking about before. So it's very generous work to do, and it won't always feel satisfying for you in the moment, but I hope that, like me, you can feel ultimately satisfied that you're contributing towards a more just society. So asking curious questions like, hey, I'm interested to know if you know very much about Māori wards, rather than what's your opinion on Māori wards, which might be more like, oh my gosh, my job is to have an opinion, I better be pro or anti. You know, you can say, hey, what have you heard about Māori wards? Or I'm curious, like literally, I'm curious, or I'm interested. I'm curious what you might think about them. And then once you've found out a little bit about that, you can always encourage people to tell you more. And I don't know if I'm admitting something terrible in front of my friend here who I co-facilitate with, who is a therapist, but I quite often think, what do therapists And I think, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Or how did you get to that conclusion? You know, they're very therapist-y Christians. They are really helpful because they are curious, open-ended, and they're not judgmental fundamentally. So asking open questions to find out about what people might think and to kind of make your own assessments of what the situation is and how you might be able to move forward with this person, or whether it is an opportunity where you probably should tap out. When you ask those kind of questions, if the values aren't really clear from the answers, you can ask more specific questions like, yeah, so what's important to you in this context? Or what do you see, what kinds of things would you like to see for the future of our community that are a little bit more kind of coming in from the side, maybe, rather than asking those questions about Māori Woods specifically and then connecting the two things together. Yeah, here's some good examples I can see on the screen in front of us. Sorry, I'm just looking at the screen for the first time, but then thank you, Madeline. But then connecting those values to your own experience here, and maybe is this what we're going to do a little practice of, Ihua?
It'll help if I unmuted myself. Yes, let's do that. So do you want to be a person who doesn't care about politics?
Sure.
Would you like to use your actual name or come up with a different name?
I can just be Chrissy.
Okay. Hey, Chrissy, I'm interested to hear what it is you kind of know or have heard about Māori wards.
Māori wards, is that like at a hospital?
No, yeah, a lot of people seem to think that, but no, it's to do with like council and local government. Have you heard about it before?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. What do I think about Māori wards?
Yeah, what do you know?
I mean, like, that's just not for me. I just am so outside. I just, I do vote in the elections and stuff. Like, I'll go when it's for the, what's it called? Like the government. But like, I don't know, all that Māori Woods stuff, that's just like, who's the mayor and stuff. Hey, I don't really see how any of that affects me, to be honest.
Well, yeah, like, because like for me, I feel very passionately about local government in general, but I'm curious as to like why you think it's not super important for you.
You feel passionate about local government. Is local government like who's the mayor?
That's part of it, and like the council, like the city councillors and all those people.
I just didn't really think that it was really very, like, I don't even know if I knew how to, like, do we vote for that the same as for the, like, who's like National Labour or whatever? Is it National Labour at local government?
It sometimes is, yeah, they can run candidates, but we vote in different elections, and it's actually super important. Like the reason I'm passionate about local government is because I think it really affects our day-to-day lives. But yeah, what makes it not so important to you, do you think?
I think I just honestly don't know how it affects my day-to-day life. Like, it's something. Yeah, I think that I'm just not very political as well. Like, I just get so, you go to my family dinners and stuff, and my bloomin' Uncle Ralph, he'll just start talking about all of his political beliefs. And I just think, man, that does not sound like I just don't want to participate in that. I just think that stuff doesn't affect me. Like, it's just, and he gets so angry as well. I just think I'm not into it.
Yeah, I can see
It's not my jam, politics, I'm not going to go to protests and stuff.
Yeah, I can see like why that seems super annoying and off-putting to you. I guess to me, like I think local government is important because it gives everyone a say in what happens. So like things like what happens around our parks and our public spaces and who gets to decide what happens with things. And like to me, that's super important. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do really care about like, who gets to make decisions, especially because like where we live, there's so many decisions getting made all the time, and I feel like I don't even know who's making those decisions.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing to not know who's like the boss of your neighborhood, really. Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's literally what it is. Who is the boss of your neighborhood?
I don't really think about it that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, and I know this is kind of annoying because it's about politics, but it's super important for you because you care about like decision making, we both care about decision making, right? And who gets to make decisions in our neighborhoods, to maybe think about enrolling and voting for this like local government election.
And so is Māori wards about if there's Māori in the local government?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So like if there's a Māori ward, it means Māori definitely have guaranteed representation in the decision making part of our government.
Even if they don't get voted for?
No, they have to get voted for.
Oh, they have to get voted for?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone has to get voted for. It just makes sure that there is some Māori representation in the council. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Cool. All right. Do you want to go do something else now?
Yeah. Let's go have lunch.
Cool. So that was a little role model. Obviously, it's not like a perfect conversation, but no conversation is going to be perfect. Yeah, and it's just to really encourage you to have a go. Like, this is the safest you will ever be in having these conversations, and it feels silly, but yeah, practice makes perfect. This is a skill we all have to develop, and like any skill, that means we have to put intention and effort into growing it. It's like you can't run a marathon overnight. You need to start with being able to walk 2Ks first. Yeah, so.
Can I just share something before we go into our rooms? Just so you all know, every time I do a role play with Gayatri and she is asking me questions, I feel so listened to and so not judged. That really makes me want to keep talking. I think it's like a thing that happens in your body. I feel it in my body every time. So I feel like, I don't know if everyone else can feel it the way that I feel it, as just a pretend actor. But it is a really powerful thing when you feel like someone is interested in talking to you and listening to you and isn't telling you you're wrong, even if you're talking about something where you don't really know anything about what they're talking about, or you're like, at the beginning. It's a really powerful thing. And I just felt it. So that's the honest truth. I just felt it in my body. So even in front of an audience, when I'm being a dork and pretending to be somebody else on a Zoom call at 7:33 p.m. on a Wednesday night. But I just thought I'd share that. It's a really big feeling when you feel like someone is just holding space and having a human conversation with you. Thanks, Silva.
You're very welcome. Thanks. And that's maybe a good thing for me to talk about specifically, is what it means to actually hold space for someone. And so part of what makes operating from this place of generosity and curiosity and sincerity important is because it allows the other person to stay in that place too. So when we can be like regulated and toe in ourselves, that like creates a space where that is possible for the other person. Human beings are social creatures, and we really, everyone's talking about vibes these days. We share vibes with each other. And so, yeah, the more we can hold on to our own kind of nervous system calmness, the way easier it is for the other person too. I just saw Rahuri ask the question, how do we become unattached to the outcome? It's super challenging. It's really hard to untangle from the mindset of wanting to win a conversation. And all I can say is that it just takes practice. And also, I think for me personally, being able to hold on to like a wider picture of what the work is. So whether I win this conversation or not is irrelevant. All I'm trying to do is just like plant a seed in the hope that one day, probably when I can't see it, it might even be multiple generations in the future, that seed will germinate and grow. And so when I start to think about things from like an ecological point of view and on kind of geological timelines, it makes things a little bit easier. But it is super hard. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just extend on that as well, Rawiri? I would say that both Gayatri and I, and definitely all of the people that are probably here tonight, are deeply attached to the outcome.
Absolutely.
But like it's attached in a really different way. And one of the things that sometimes helps, and that we sometimes talk about in our workshops, is remembering times that you have shifted your perspective on something and what led you to shifting that perspective. And it's not that there is one answer, because I have sometimes seen people get really angry and impassioned, and that's also shifted my perspective. So it's not the only way, but this is a way, and it's a really powerful way, and it's especially helpful for these kind of conversations with these kind of relationships. And I definitely know there are times where someone has said something to me, or not even to me, but in front of me about something, and at the time I felt like, I don't really agree with that. I've been like, oh, I feel a bit defensive of my point of view that I previously held when I heard them say that thing, even if it's not to me. I just know that feeling. I don't know if anyone else knows that feeling, but I have lots of memories of my life of feeling resistant to something that is different. And then I've gone away, especially quite often if they've been quite generous in the way that they have shared. I've gone away and I've thought about it. And there are times that I have really like come from like 0 to 100 even. But we're not even looking for that. We're looking to shift people mostly like this, like
Mm.
shift this little extra bit of the kind of pie chart or whatever it is, whatever the image is. And so I think it's, yeah, that's also great, Lara. Yeah, come to us, we have cookies. But I think it is really powerful to think about the effect that you might have and experiences in your own life where you might remember shifting as well. Because I've shifted a lot in my life and it hasn't always been from a big, like, here's the facts, Chrissy. Quite often it's just been people sharing their experience of something or a moment. Often I find myself shifting if people share ways that they have shifted or if they just listen to me and engage with me as a human, those things are really, really powerful. So I like to think we are quite attached to the outcome, but we've got lots of strategies of how to maybe get to that outcome rather than just defeating people at an argument.
Yes, and that ties in really nicely to why we asked you to do the pre-workshop task, which was to reflect on how you kind of came to the position that you have on Māori boards, was to think a little bit about that kind of conscientizing process, because none of us like just are born perfectly knowing all of the right things. We all have to learn, and the more we can reflect on our own learning journey, and the easier it becomes to give grace and space to other people too. All right, I think that brings us to practice time.